hand hygiene, which are central to the spread of COVID-19. And therefore, our response plans must prioritize water sanitation and hygiene services. Further, the World Health Organization released a guidance for the water sanitation and hygiene and waste management for the SARS-CoV-2, highlighting that the provision of safe water sanitation and waste management is essential in the prevention and protection of human health against infectious diseases. So now let's take a look at the Philippine condition. So according to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, 55 people die daily in the Philippines due to lack of proper sewerage and septic facilities. And according to the World Health Organization, one in 10 people still do not have access to improved water sources. So this situation could be worsened because of the El Nino phenomena and climate change. So the recent water shortage in the Philippines, especially in our capital, which is the Metro Manila, highlights the uncertainty of water access in the nation's capital. So the inadequate and intermittent water supply in Metro Manila and in other parts of the country can have a serious health consequences because people will now rely to unsafe water supply. So what is the bigger problem in the Philippines? So based on the statistics, as you can see in the screen, poor urban sanitation contributes largely in the water pollution. So why is this happening? Because the Philippines is lacking wastewater treatment plants, sewage systems, and sanitation systems that leads to approximately 1.6 billion US dollars economic losses. So according to the study conducted by the World Health Organization and UNICEF in 2017, as you can see in the screen, the gray part is the determines that the Philippines has a high or very high risk in terms of fecal contamination in our water resources compared to the neighbor countries. So, what would be the impacts of this crisis to the in times of the pandemic? So, there are various studies before the COVID-19 pandemic that says that the coronavirus is present in our water supply, and there is a recent study, although it still needs to be verified in the peer reviewed, saying that the novel coronavirus holding the world hostage at the moment poses a great threat to the health of humans, animals, and plants than previously suspected. Because the study shows that the contaminated water will last the COVID virus up to 25 days. And therefore, it places a special focus on the contamination through the sewage. So even though these findings is still need to verify, nonetheless, it brings attention to the potential great risk for infection from dirty water at a time when personal hygiene is the essence. So the sewage system in Southeast Asia, urban centers are often inadequate. And at the same time, the wastewater are being pumped into rivers and oceans where diseases can potentially become endemic within flora and fauna, and thus, when consumed, act as a vector for the coronavirus to affect the human health. So, in case of the Philippines, we have the Marilao River, which is one of the most polluted rivers in Southeast Asia. So, where it accumulates a range of pollutants so extreme that it has been described as an open sewer. So, since at the best only third of the households is connected to the sewer system, untreated residential waste is discarded directly into the water. So, this practice contaminating the vital freshwater aquifers in the process. So, as you can see here in the screen, there are 4,200 Filipinos die each year due to waterborne diseases. These are the top three waterborne diseases in the country. And if COVID is now added to the list, as other studies have previously warned, fighting the virus effectively requires a holistic approach that tackles the issue of reducing the water pollution and providing alternative water supplies at the same time. So the Philippines is among the top 20 countries worldwide that has the highest number of cases of COVID-19. So as you can see in the map, the red portion are the most cities that has the most number of cases. So as you can observe in the map, the red portion are the urban areas in the country. So if we take a look at the national capital region, the number one city in NCR is the Quezon City. And if you take a look at the Quezon City, one-third of Quezon City is composed of slums areas. So what does it happen to the slum areas? Even though without COVID-19, poor living conditions trigger various health issues related to overcrowding and water and sanitation and hygiene as the most important factor in the spread of infections. So this is particularly true to the elderly population and the young. So if not well managed, density congestion is associated with large land scarcity and lack of basic services as clean water and sanitation. And thus, the cities increasing the density brings their own problem. So these issues have most clearly manifested in Metro Manila, wherein, as you can see in the screen, this is the study conducted by the World Bank in 2016 that conducted in the informal settlers families that, as you can see, their water supply is mostly is they don't have connection to water supply and thus rely to the other water sources. It's either in the neighborhood or in vendors. So as you can see also in terms of access to sanitation facilities, although they have a sewer and septic tank, there are still portions where they practice open defecation and sometimes different households have only one common toilet, which is really necessary during the times of the pandemic. Also, as you can see, in this kind of areas, social distancing is really hard to these areas. So the spread of the pandemic is really extreme in this kind of situations. So what did the government do? So there are immediate responses such as the Republic Act 11469 or the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. So it is an act wherein 3 months wherein the government has the power to make immediate response to the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, there are immediate responses wherein the provision of soap, hygiene kits, masks, and other supplies given to the informal settlers. Also, social distancing, although in this kind of area, social distancing is not really, it's difficult to execute. Also, water rationing is also has been executed by the Bureau of Fire Protection together with the Philippine Red Cross and other organizations. Also, there are also collection of garbage collection. Also, we set up sinks and hand washing stations, which is located in the strategic common areas. However, are these measures really enough? So how can we sustain this approach and what are the long-term solutions and how do we ensure that they are properly implemented? So the Philippines right now has the National Urban Development and Housing Framework. So inside of the framework there is a water and sanitation. So first, we need to streamline the policies and improve the regulatory framework to ensure sustainable water security in urban areas. So this includes the harmonized legislation, policies, organizational development plans, and we need to simplify the regulatory framework from the approval of water and sanitation plans to maintenance that will enable proponents to protect, explore, develop, and expand water and sanitation services for the larger urban systems. Also, promoting of and support the innovative water and sanitation technologies. So these are the cost-effective alternative technologies in water and sanitation, including the water recycling, should be supported. So the investment in research, prototyping, and fully developing technologies, especially localized solutions. Next is the support in financing for climate and disaster resilient water and sanitation infrastructure. We need to mobilize our resources, which includes the private sector, that will allow the government flexibility in developing and implementing high capital outlay infrastructure projects. So we need to replicate and improve the success of privately managed water utilities that will further strengthen resilience of urban water infrastructure. And lastly, we need to strengthen the capacity of the government on water and sanitation governance. So we need to capacity building programs should be in place for the national, regional, and local water and sanitation personnel in critical areas like strategies framework. Next, right now I'm working in the Department of Public Works and Highways, and we have a new program, which is the National Sewerage and Septage Management Program. Although we targeted that by 2020, all highly urbanized cities should have the sewerage and septage facility. However, this target was not accomplished because it is difficult to implement this kind of program to the highly urbanized cities. But now we are targeting the ICC, or yeah, the component cities, which is easily to implement this kind of program. So the NSSMP is really a long-term program that has the objective to enhance the ability to local implementers to implement and operate wastewater treatment systems for the urban centers. So the main strategy of the NSSMP is to facilitate the bottom-up demand-driven project development process by providing national government support and incentives. And of course, lastly, is the sustainable development goals. We have targets in sustainable development goals, particularly in clean water and sanitation. Also, sustainable cities and communities. These sustainable development goals are included in our Philippine Development Plan. And of course, SDG 6 and SDG 11 are connected to other sustainable development goals. So that will be all. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, considering we are a very small group of people, so we'll accept one question regarding the presentation. Yeah. Yes, please. Okay, in the case, I'll ask one question. Well, thanks for your presentation regarding to the water and sanitation crisis and those impact on COVID-19. I noticed that there are the slum areas, so there are very lack of those sanitation services, and also seems like overly populated. So you said that it is almost impossible for the social distancing and to impose proper measure. So in terms of the Philippine government as a government official, so what would be the kind of best applicable solution at the moment regarding to this situation?
Right now, we have a new department, which is the DHSUD. So it specializes in urban planning. So it is a newly created department this year. So with this, right now the Philippines has the right now we are in the process of doing the framework. So this framework is until 2022, but right now we have a document called the Habitat 3, so a new urban agenda. So there it includes the plans, especially in the decongesting the urban, the overly populated urban areas.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you please give her a big round of applause? Thank you. Okay, now I gotta invite our next speaker, Mr. Trevor Delman, Faisal. His topic is drinking water supply in Azerbaijan, current problems and causes. Okay, Mr. Turbo.
Okay.
Will you use the mic?
Good morning, dear participants. Good morning, Professor Park. Thank you so much for this conference. Today I will talk about drinking water supply in Azerbaijan and current problems and causes. You know, actually water supply is very major issue in my country because we have the water shortage problem, water scarcity problem, and we are trying to solve this problem, and we have some kind of strategies also. And what's the reasons for this problem, for this issue? I will try to explain. And this photos, as you see, the three photos has also the meaning. I will talk about it later. Sorry. Okay. This is a brief introduction about my country. This is our area. It's 86 kilometers square and more than 86, and capital Baku, official language Azerbaijan language. We have sustained of the ethnic groups, Lechi, Armenian, Russian, Talysh, and other. And our government is unitary, population is more than 10 million. Religion is our country is a secular state according to our constitution. And our GDP is nominal GDP is more than 45 billion dollars. The main water resources of Azerbaijan, as you see, the total water, the 32.1% of the total water resources belongs to our rivers, and the second is the water reserves in my country, and we got drinking water also from these two water resources. And lakes, we have also the more than 300 lakes and springs and other. Groundwater is also not common used in my country because we don't have enough groundwater resources. This is the water users in Azerbaijan. The industrial use is the first, but agriculture is second, and the utilities and drinking water supply is the last, according to the volume of used water, 1 million cubic meter in Azerbaijan. But now this one is a bit outdated. But now I think agriculture is the first the water user agriculture sector in my country, because we are Azerbaijan is the oil and gas country, and now we want to change it our non-oil sector, especially we want to develop our agriculture sector. This is another statistic I took it from the Committee of Statistics of Azerbaijan. You can see there the water abstraction from the natural water resources and water consumption. You see, we also the water consumption is also very high, and the last years is increasing. It means we need more water, drinking water supply. We have to show our efforts more. The Azerbaijan is one of the water-stressed country. That even we are Azerbaijan is located in crossroad of the Europe and Asia, but as you know, in our country is mountainous, but we are the water-stressed country. According to the research, our surface water reserves our average 32.3 billion cubic meters per year. In dry years, it will be 2.23 billion cubic meters. And in our region, Azerbaijan has less water resources compared with Georgia, Russia, and Armenia. This is the water availability during the driest months. I took it from the World Water Clock, the website. It's very interesting. And as you see from this, the photos, there is in 2000, 2020, and 2030. But in 2000, our population was almost 8 million, and the percentage of people living in water scarce areas was 28%. But in 2020, it's increasing. You see, our population right now is more than 10 million, and the percentage of people living in the water scarce areas is 31%. Even after 10 years, our population will not increase too much, but the water scarce, the percentage of people living in the water scarce areas it will be the 37% in Azerbaijan. This map also shows the water stress, the scenarios by 2040 in Azerbaijan, and as you said, in the 2040s also Azerbaijan will be extremely high water stress country. And these photos show that also the drinking water scarcity in dry months, especially in the summer season in Azerbaijan. And as you see from this photo, the water company, the Azersu, they supply water to our people because there's not enough drinking water. And this, the first photo is also our main river basin. But you see in this summer, this photo took this summer, and you see the river basin is getting dry because of the climate change issue, and also we use this river especially for agriculture purpose. And also we use this river for drinking water purpose. And we have more than 4 dams over this river. What's the current problems on drinking water supply? The first, the use of old methods in irrigation system. This is as I told you before, our water supply, especially we lost our water in the irrigation system because of the old use of all the methods, and we use the soil canal, and we lost a lot of water there. And also, some of the main water lines are old. The water pipelines are old. This also causing the water loss in Azerbaijan. And improper distribution of water balance of major river basins and illegal diversion of river basins for irrigation. Inefficient use of drinking water sources. Now our country is trying to increase awareness in my country, because inefficient use of water drinking resources is really high level in Azerbaijan, especially in our rural area. The contamination of drinking water resources with sewage and solid waste, and also the river basins, the most of river basins is transboundary river, and this river is also polluted by neighboring countries, especially Armenia, in their area, and with sewage, industrial waste. And in our country also, some drinking water resources reservoirs polluted by sewage, because we don't have enough sewage system in Azerbaijan, especially in rural area. The global climate change is also one of the main issue that also affect our water resources, available water resources. And I show you the photo. Our main river basin is getting dry because of the global climate change. And we also have some strategy, and we also have some efforts to reduce our water loss and to develop our water management system. The overall goal of the national water management strategy is to strengthen and promote the national efforts to ensure the efficient, equitable, and optimal use of existing water resources in Azerbaijan in order to achieve sustainable socio-economic development. This figure also shows that our institutions for water management system, because we have we already adopted water strategy, and this year we add the water action plan, also another action plan to this strategy, and we established this institution to implement this strategy within the next 10 years. The strategy is divided into the short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. This strategy documents the following issues. First, assess the country's water resources with their distribution according to the main natural and economic zone. Identify the prospects for the growth of water consumption, characterize the possibilities of the reuse of water, and determine the irreversible loss of it. They outline the main measures for the protection of water to prevent the pollution of water bodies, wastewater treatment, their canalization. Find out the most important requirements for water management for the sectors interested in it: agriculture, water transport, energy, fisheries, and etc. To draw the prospective water balance, and based on them, to identify the territories that are most scarce in the water. Identify the most important priority and outline the most important promising objects of water management, which should be the subject of further design work. According to this strategy, we have some water supply for this is the water treatment plants we built in the during the last 3 years, and there is another the dam. This is also mainly the dam that we use for drinking water, and another water pipeline that we with this pipeline we supply the Baku population the drinking water supply. And another effort for drinking water, we don't have enough drinking water groundwater resources, but from the past we have like this, we call it carries, and but we didn't use it a long time. But these years we try to rebuild it again, and this project financed especially for our displaced persons. We internally displaced persons, and this project financed by KOICA, and this like this kind of drinking water is very clean, and in my country, and especially in some rural areas, they use like this water for their drinking purpose. And I also have some suggestions for solving this problem. The first, to study the quantitative and qualitative characteristics of the water resources, water needs, and conditions for its integrated use. To research and develop new methods of compiling water balance sheets and regulating river flows. To develop methods for constructing the most appropriate schemes for the integrated use of water system as the basis for choosing the optimal option for the integrated of the water resources. The construction of new reservoirs, which is we are already starting to do that. We are planning to build 10 new dams to solve our drinking water issue, and to make to increase our drinking water supply. To solve our drinking water supply problem. To use the non-conventional water sources, for example, the Caspian Sea, we can use it for protection of the unique ecosystem of the Caspian Sea, to collect surface water and rain harvesting for agriculture, to apply modern technologies, for example, smart water management, technologies in the efficient use of the water resources. Modern irrigation technologies should be used. In addition, treated wastewater should be used in irrigation in Azerbaijan. It will be help to increase our drinking water supply in Azerbaijan. Thank you so much. This was my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay, thanks to all. Well, regarding these Azerbaijan cases for drinking water supply, I will take one question from the floor. Okay, that's yes.
Thanks for Tobu. Lizia, your very informative presentation. Actually, I'm from China, and because my country now is rising in terms of the economic development. But in your presentation, I'm interested in the water scarcity due to the industrial development. Because in your presentation, you listed some reasons for the water scarcity, such as the agriculture irrigation system and also the global climate change impacts. But as we all know, Azerbaijan now is rising in the industry sector, such as the oil industry, because we all know your country is rich in the oil. So my question is that is there any industry factors which cause the water scarcity in your country? And if it's so, what solutions or what measures your government have taken to how to say to deal with the industrial impacts on the water resources?
Okay, thank you so much for your question, Nanda. Yes, that's true. We actually before in the past, and when I was Azerbaijan was in the under the Soviet Union, we the first reason was industrial purpose. We was using a lot of the water for industrial purpose, especially one of our big city, Sumgait city. It's basically located in the side of Caspian Sea. We were using this. There is a lot of the factories, industrial facilities. We were using this a lot of water for industrial purpose. But then yes, that's true. Our industry is also developing because we want to improve the non-oil sector. We concern it, and we try to use the Caspian Sea water, and we built water treatment plants for this purpose. Especially we use them. Not we don't use for the drinking water for this purpose, but now the main reason is not industrial, it's agriculture sector. Because right now we are trying to develop our agriculture sector, but unfortunately we don't have the advanced irrigation system. That's why I mentioned the irrigation first, because we lose a lot of water in irrigation, in agriculture sector, not in industry right now. Right now the situation is like it, but I don't know in the future. But we have the water strategy, as I told you before, and we also consider this issue in the water strategy because we develop our industry, and we use water for this. That's why we try to desalinate the Caspian Sea water for industrial purpose and for other purpose. And another one I told you before in the slide. This three of the slides are the dams. Before in the Soviet Union, it was Azerbaijan built these dams, but unfortunately, Armenia occupied this territory more than 30 years. But now we liberated this territory and we got these dams again. I think this also will be helpful for our drinking water supply because it has enough water resources. These dams, the Sukovshan, Sersang, and Kudaparins. We also, I think, we will add this our strategy and our action plan also is that we need to rebuild it again and use for our drinking water purpose. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Are there more questions from the floor? Okay, in that case, why don't you give him a big round of applause? Thank you. Well, based on the program, we have another speaker, but I just received a message from the presenter that some family matters, so he didn't make it this morning. So we skip the third presentation and we'll go to our last Bangladesh speakers. Mr. Yoga Hadipras said here. Mr. Yoga will present about river naturalization and normalization in overcoming the flood risk of Jakarta province in Indonesia. So, Mr. Yoga, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, our distinguished person, our beloved Professor Park Sang-Yun. Thank you for having me in this beautiful morning. So, my name is Yoga Hadiprasya, and in this occasions, I would like to share about the river naturalization and also normalization in overcoming the flood risk of Jakarta Capital Special Region, the Republic of Indonesia. So, this is the contents that I want to share now. We will start from the Republic of Indonesia itself and also Jakarta, and it flows into the river naturalization and normalization in overcoming the flood risk. So, as we can see here, this is Republic of Indonesia.
You can take out the mic.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Prophet. Yeah, so this is the Republic of Indonesia. This is our symbol, Garuda Pancasila, or the eagle. And as we know that we are the constitutional republic, we also have the presidential systems, and we have more than 17,000 islands with more than 400 volcanoes. That is why, like the other countries, says that Indonesia has another name as the Equator Emeralds, which also the ring of fire of the tropical countries. And this is the place that we want to discuss today. So this is our capital, Jakarta. So we move forward to the Jakarta Capital Special Region. We talk about the geography and climate conditions. As we could see here that Jakarta is have an area, total area is about like 664 square kilometers, or 0.03% to the Indonesian total area. And it passes by the Ciliwung River through the central and also South Jakarta areas. According to the climate conditions, we could see here that this one is the temperature in Jakarta Capital Special Region from 2017 to 2019. So the orange stands for the minimum temperature, the black stands for the average temperature, and the maximum stands represents with the blue color. So the maximum temperature in 2009 is like 35.2 degrees Celsius, and the minimum temperature is 23. So that is why the other also say that Jakarta is quite hot. Yeah, quite hot places in Indonesia, of course. When we talk about the humidity in Jakarta also, the maximum humidity reaches around 92.3%, while the minimum humidity is about 57%. The precipitations and the rainy days in Jakarta Capital Special Region, as we can see here, the orange line stands for the number of precipitations. So in 2019, I'm sorry. So the number of precipitations reached around more than 1,500 millimeters, while the number of the rainy days reached around 129 days, only for 2019. And we move forward to the tables. As we can see here, like what I said before, that Jakarta passes by the Ciliwung River through the central and south area. So the central and south area. So the total river basin area is about 672.32 square kilometer, while the momentary extreme debit, the average minimum is like 2.23, while the maximum is like 130.09. Also, the average of water flows is runs about 16.67 cubic meter per second, while the average of flows is like 44.63 liter per second per square kilometer. And the depth of water itself is like more than 1,500 millimeter, while the water volume is around 525 million cubic meter. So we move forward to another situations. As we will see here, on the left side, the graph showed about the number of villages that affected by the natural disaster in Jakarta Capital Special Region. So as we can see here, there are three largest natural disasters that happened in Jakarta. The first one is flood, the second one is earthquake, the third one is landslide. But as we could see here, the largest number of villages that already affected by the natural disasters belongs to the flood. And this also happened on the right side graph. So it showed that the flood, the number of victims affected by the natural disaster in Jakarta, so on 2018, it's reached around 2,000, more than 2,200 victims. So this is our beloved HI roundabout. It's located in the central of Jakarta. So it's a very busy area, as we could see here in the picture on the left. And we could also see that on the right side that in early 2020, the flood happening again in Jakarta Capital Special Region. So it makes that our roundabout, our busiest place in Jakarta is like, damaged. So the next one I want to talk is like the nation's Department of Economic and Social Affairs all described that the integrated water resource management is an empirical concept which was built out from the on-the-ground experience of practitioners. And as we also know that the Global Water Partnerships 2018 defined that the IWRC is a process which promotes the coordinated development and management of water, land, and related sources in order to maximize the economic and social welfare in a equitable manner without compromising the sustainability of vital ecosystem and the environment. So the main objective of the IWRM is to protect the world's environment by fostering economic growth and sustainable development, promoting a collaborative participation among all stakeholders, and also improving the human health. So there are several key components from the IWRM. The first one is like managing the water resources, optimizing supply, managing the demand, providing equitable access, establishing improved and integrated policy, regulatory and frameworks, and utilizing an intersectoral approach. And the last one is like integrating management. This is the river management in Indonesia. As we could see here, that the Republic of Indonesia Government Regulations number 37, year 2012, define that the river management is carried out by government in all stages. It's including the central, so it belongs to the minister, also to the provincial, that belongs to the governor, and then belongs to the municipal, and it belongs to the regional or mayor. So on the right side, we can see that we define to manage the river, we classify the management into three different classes. The first one is conservation, development, and control. As we could, So we move on to the river naturalizations. Rose and Herrick say that river naturalizations is an effort to regain functions of a natural system of the rivers. Sparks and Richard et al. Also say that naturalizations means selective reconnection of floodplains with their rivers and restoration of more natural flooding regime. So a naturalization also means having to deal with the uncertainties, seasonal timing, durations, and intensity of floods and low flows. Therefore, the river naturalizations in general view means bringing the characteristic of an ecosystem into the natural concept, which priors the beneficials of the social and economic uses. This is the river naturalizations implementations in Jakarta area. And we move forward to river normalizations, as well known as the river channelizations. It involves the modifications, usually by the engineering methods, including straightening and reinforcing the bed and banks. So we could say that the river normalizations can provide the erosion control and also the rehabilitation that can cause damage further downstream where efforts to widen or deepen the river were not undertaken. So in simple words, we could say that the normalizations or the channelizations is like a modification of the riverbeds and riverbanks to support the flow of water and controlling the flood and drainage. This is the river normalizations implementations in Jakarta Capital Special Region. So according to that, both concepts that we already implement, both methods, the river naturalizations and river normalizations. But as we could see here, that the in early 2020, we still are facing the flood risk. So there should be a further collaborative concepts. Therefore, yeah. So as we could see here, that in further restoring the river morphology also calls for the consideration of the dynamic processes of the whole fluvial systems. According to the implementation of both river naturalization and normalizations, there should be a combination method that based to its effectiveness of each river management concept in obstructing the river flows, which could also enhancing the water absorption areas. So as we know that Jakarta is the capital of Indonesia, so a lot of urbanization, a lot of people move to Jakarta. So it's on one side, it's a good option to work in the capital. But on the other side, because of the urbanizations, we have a very limited natural sources or open area to absorb the water itself. So that is why we came. That is why we came to this combination between the river naturalization and also the normalizations, is as well as to provide a wider buffer zone from the river beds and also the river banks. There could be an area that more suitable to implement the river naturalization, while there also could be another areas that more appropriate to carry out the river normalizations. Again, it's dependent on the morphology of the rivers itself. So finally, we came up into the relationship between the river naturalization and normalization with the Sustainable Development Goals. So according to the 17 goals, we could see here that the river naturalization and normalization is highly related with the SDG 6, or the clean water and sanitation, which is it's defined by the target 6.5 and also target 6.6. Therefore, the river naturalization and normalization as a comprehensive form of water ecosystem protection that also support the IWR and overcome the Jakarta flood risk could be categorized as a better strategic plan in the future. And we also came up to the SDG 17, which is partnerships for the goals. So in this one, we could also see that the implementation of the river naturalization and also normalization could effectively be implemented by forming the PPPs, as well as the public-private partnerships, especially the CSR and also the CER within government, private companies, and the social communities, which also enhance the involvement of the social communities itself, as well as the Jakarta citizens. So this is my conclusions. According to the implementation of both river naturalization and normalizations, there should be a combination method that based to its effectiveness in obstructing the river flows, which also enhancing the water absorption areas. The other conclusion is there could be an area that more suitable to implement the river naturalizations, while there could also be another areas that more appropriate to carry out the river normalizations. So along the Citarum River, the Citarum River that cross the Jakarta area, so there would be an appropriate place that we could implement both naturalizations and normalizations in more effective way. Again, the river naturalization and normalization could also effectively be implemented by forming the public-private partnerships among the CSR and also the CER. And this is my recommendations. There should be a further policy development that considers about the proper method and technology for implementing both river naturalizations and normalizations that could be adapted by each institutions. And then there should be a further research as well as a pilot project that concerns about the combination method between the river naturalizations and river normalizations in overcoming the Jakarta flood risk. The last but not least of my recommendation is that the government in all stages should have to support the development of the combination method itself between river naturalization and also normalization to overcoming the Jakarta flood risk. So this is the references that I have been used to prepare these presentations. And last but not least, this is quotes. It says that in rivers, the water that you touch is the last of what has passed, and the first of that which comes. So with the present time. It says by the Leonardo di Serpiero da Vinci, or as well as known as the Leonardo da Vinci, an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance, who is widely considered one of the greatest painters of all the time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yoga. A very interesting presentation. So, are there any questions regarding to? Okay, and first and second.
Hi Yoga. So why is the combination of the river naturalization and river normalization could be assumed as a solution in overcoming the Jakarta capital's special region flood risk?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. So when I come up with this idea, like to combine between the river naturalizations and also the river normalizations, it also comes with the method of the implementation itself. Like as we know that the river normalization is like to deepen the river banks, so that in the purpose to scale up the flows of the water itself. While on the other side, that the river naturalizations aim to turn the river banks to be more green, which has a main purpose is to scale up or to enhance the capacity of water absorptions in the river banks or the watershed itself. So the combinations between those two, it is becomes like our previous governor already governor of Jakarta already implement the river normalizations in Jakarta Capital Special Region, and our new governor also wants to implement the river naturalizations. So it is better to combine between those ideas, which also been followed by further research that located in the Jakarta Capital Special Region to provide a more detailed about the effectiveness of both methods, both river normalizations or river naturalizations implementation itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's another question from.
Thanks so much for your presentation, Mr. Yoga. I would like to know that, so how you keep resiliency to against the flood, because we can hear almost every year the flood in Indonesia because of your climate. So how you keep your resilience? Which kind of adaptation plans do you have in your country, in your government?
Thank you very much, Mr. Sogro, for the question. So, in overcoming the flood risk in Jakarta, we also have to consider the other aspects. So, in these presentations, I've only considered about the river normalization and river naturalizations, but on the other occasions, I also talked about the social communities' involvement in helping the Jakarta government. We could say that the collaborative engagement between the government, private sectors, and NGOs, and also the people or the Jakarta citizen itself could also help the Jakarta to overcome the flood risk. Why? Because when the government tries to implement the river normalizations and river naturalizations, and the Jakarta citizens could also make a biopori or like a bioport. Bioport, it could say that it's like a hole made by one simple equipment. So like every Jakarta citizen could make their bioport in every houses. So it could speed up the absorption of the water into the ground. So that is why I will came up with the collaborative management between the government, private sectors, NGOs, and also the social communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yoga, for the nice presentation. Well, why don't we give a round of applause? Okay, thanks for